gift cards. Previously, donations alone made it possible. Chief Charlie Beck hopes the city will continue to set aside money for the program for years to come. For LA This Week, I'm Gil Reyes.
The city reserved $250,000 in the city's general fund to pay for the event. Brush fire season is upon us in Southern California, and at the 11th hour, a motion from City Council is keeping firefighters on the job. Cindy San Luis takes us to City Council chambers with more.
This is an item that is critically important to the public safety of the community.
After a lengthy debate, the Los Angeles City Council voted to allocate $1.5 million to the fire department to reverse a controversial staffing reassignment plan that removed one firefighter from each truck to an ambulance to help answer the increase of 911 medical calls.
Within my budget, I deployed the resources necessary in order to handle the public safety concerns, in order to save lives.
Fire Chief Brian Cummings proposed the reassignment plan last month as a way to increase the number of basic life support ambulances available around the city. But firefighter union reps and some members of the public voiced concern.
Removing firefighters off fire companies is not the right course of action to take because we have a shortage of rescue ambulances.
The only way we can address both of these situations is through the budget. Number one, we need to provide the fire department with more resources.
And so, following Councilmember Paul Krikorian's motion and its approval, the money coming from the city's budget stabilization fund will allow the fire department to add 11 rescue ambulances without the need to move firefighters off fire trucks. That money will pay for firefighters to work overtime to staff the ambulances.
We are responding to a political desire to reduce the response times, at the same time reducing our fire service, which in a firestorm can have devastating effects.
The funding plan will be in effect through the end of the fiscal year in June, leaving the incoming mayor and the new council to determine how to continue funding the plan for a full year. I'm Cindy San Luis for LA This Week.
Fire Chief Brian Cummings said 85% of all 911 calls are for medical emergencies, 3% are for actual fires. And to aid the LAFD during this budget crunch, the city's 3rd council district recently donated $200,000 to the fire department for the purchase of equipment the fire chief says is necessary for firefighters to do the job they are trained to do. On display at Fire Station 84 in Woodland Hills are what $200,000 can buy.
We've received quite a few power tools, battery power tools, gasoline power tools that the firefighters, the men and women of the Los Angeles Fire Department, will use for life-saving operations when they respond to the close to 400,000 calls for service that we respond to each year here in the city of Los Angeles.
It's a generous donation the city's firefighters appreciate at a time when the fire department has had to do more with less.
I'd like to say on behalf of over 3,300 firefighters and paramedics citywide, we've taken a hard hit the last several years with staffing cuts. Obviously equipment cuts as well.
The equipment ranges from simple tools such as flashlights and saws for making entry into buildings to more high-tech equipment, including GPS systems, to the jaws of life used to pry victims trapped in a car after a wreck.
These tools will be assigned to the 7 fire stations here in Council District 3, which include Tarzana, Woodland Hills, Winnetka, Canoga Park, and Reseda. The firefighters have the training and the talent, but unless we have tools that are well maintained and operate and the correct tools, it's difficult for them to do their job effectively.
With these latest tools and gadgets, the city's firefighters are armed with what they need to better protect not only the city's residents, but themselves and their fellow firefighters as well. Last year, Council District 3 made a similar donation to the LA Police Department for equipment purchase, which was divided between the Topanga Police Station, the West Valley Police Station, and the Valley Traffic Division. With over 64 million people passing through LAX every year, security is always a top priority. The Los Angeles Airport Police leads that effort, and recently the department welcomed its new chief. Rich Samuels reports.
I do.
Congratulations, Chief.
In an oath administered by Congresswoman Janice Hahn at Los Angeles International Airport's Flight Path Museum, Patrick Gannon was sworn in as Los Angeles World Airport's 5th Chief of Police.
You are such a fine leader, and you have such respect and dignity for all the men and women that you have worked with in LAPD and certainly now with the men and women of the Airport Police.
We are very fortunate to have him join our team, the LAWA team, and rejoining the city family after 34 years of distinguished service in the Los Angeles Police Department.
Gannon, who retired from the LAPD last summer, actually took over as chief several months ago. He leads an organization of over 1,100 police, security officers, and staff protecting LAX, Ontario, and Van Nuys airports. His former boss at the LAPD had nothing but praise.
He will always put your interests above his. He will always put the interests of public safety in this airport above his own.
Gannon insisted the day wasn't about him. It was about partnerships with his colleagues and with local and federal agencies.
I had somebody ask me not long ago, what's in it for me as far as the partnership goes? And I said, it's not about me. It's not about anybody. It's about us. It's about we. And when we're talking about partnerships, we're not talking about getting anything. We're talking about sharing and collectively working towards the common good.
From Los Angeles International Airport, this is Rich Samuels for LA This Week.
Chief Ron Boyd of the Port Police and police chiefs from surrounding cities were on hand to congratulate their new colleague. Over at the Los Angeles Police Department, officers who have died in the line of duty were remembered and honored for their unwavering dedication and sacrifice. Yana Kay takes us to the annual LAPD Memorial Ceremony.
Lisa Simmons is placing a long stem red rose on the nameplate of her late husband, Randall Simmons, who was killed in the line of duty in 2008. She says this memorial helps celebrate his life.
There's that emptiness that you have inside of you, but it's also a day to remember the life, the beautiful life, and the legacy that they're going to leave behind.
Those legacies of fallen LAPD officers were celebrated at this annual memorial ceremony. Police Chief Charlie Beck, speaking indoors at the beginning of the ceremony, was overcome with emotion as he remembered the fallen.
The biggest tragedy in my life, especially my life as a chief, has been the loss of Josh and RJ in Afghanistan.
LAPD officers Robert R.J. Cottle, seen here on the left, and Joshua J. Collins both died in 2010 while serving in Afghanistan. Chief Beck said that one way to honor those who died is by reducing the risks that come with being a police officer by doing one thing.
Is that we vow that every day we will do what it takes to keep each other safe.
The ceremony featured a traditional roll call of fallen officers, a 21 rifle volley, the playing of taps, and a missing man formation helicopter flyover. As for those left behind, they take great comfort in knowing their loved ones made a tremendous impact in their community.
His legacy lives on. He lived such a beautiful life, and he did so much for the city of Los Angeles, badge on and badge off.
As of today, 204 LAPD officers have made the ultimate sacrifice. And for the family and friends who are here today, they've managed to move on with their lives, but they vow to never forget. I'm Yana Kay for LA This Week.
Robert R.J. Cottle and Joshua J. Collins were the last LAPD officers killed in the line of duty. LA's runoff elections are just around the corner. A new mayor and many other local seats and issues are at stake in the May 21st vote. As Anna Marcos shows us, the democratic process is reaching out to Angelenos in more new ways than ever before.
City workers are revving up the election machinery as the runoff date draws near. First on the conveyor belt, the supply tub full of all the materials that will go to each polling place.
Historically a mayoral election, and in this case mayoral plus the two other citywide offices, controller and city attorney, it stands out statistically as one that people tend to come out more for.
Not only will residents vote in a new mayor, city attorney, and city controller in this runoff. They will also choose several new city council and school board members. And they will decide measures on campaign spending and marijuana taxation.
I haven't done thorough research, but I imagine we've never had 3 medical marijuana initiatives before on our ballot.
Even with the tried and true practice of voting, the times they are changing. Among the new trends changing elections this year include social media as a new outreach tool, more medical marijuana measures on the ballot than ever before, and 2 new federally mandated languages, Hindi and Thai, to reflect LA's changing population.
So our language is, as mandated by the feds, is now risen from 6 to 8. In addition, the LA City Council, noting that we have a great deal of Armenian speakers, asked us to see if we could do at least outreach to them.
And with social media, election workers plan to spread more voting buzz than they ever have.
This year, for the first time, we have introduced a Twitter and Facebook account. I guess we have the Facebook account, but we're really beginning to try to use it to get the word out.
Residents can now vote in more languages and get all the latest election info quicker than you can say Twitter, because even the democratic process needs a little updating now and then. I'm Anna Marcos for LA This Week.
The city also plans to publish voting materials in 3 more languages in 2015, Armenian, Farsi, and Russian. It was and still is a tall order. Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa's pledge to plant 1 million trees in Los Angeles. As the mayor nears the end of his time in office, a look at the progress Los Angeles has made toward its 1 million tree mark.
20%.
Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa was pumped up about his record on the environment as he spoke to an audience at the Los Angeles River Center. And to critics of his ambitious Million Trees initiative who say the program has fallen short, the mayor makes no apologies for the 400,000 trees that have been planted so far.
You're darn right we said we were going to plant 1 million trees, and we will. Who knew at the time that we were going to be in the worst recession since the 1930s and that we wouldn't spend one general fund dollar to do it? Not one.
And without those general fund dollars, partnerships with corporate and nonprofit organizations are what have made it possible to plant any trees in the city.
We planted about over 1,000 trees throughout the public housing facilities. The community loves it. They're happy. They're proud of what we do.
The mayor says 400,000 trees is 6 times more trees as were planted prior to the initiative. And setting the bar high is what ultimately transforms a city like Los Angeles from a smog-filled, single-passenger-obsessed metropolis to one that's silencing even the harshest critics. The mayor cites Los Angeles' participation in the Kyoto Protocol, a binding agreement between industrialized nations to cut down on the emission of greenhouse gases.
Kyoto said we were going to reduce carbon emissions by 7% of 1990 levels by 2012, right? Today, we're at 28% below Kyoto levels. That's 4 times what Kyoto required. We hit that number by 2012.
The U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, Tom Vilsack, who was on hand to honor Los Angeles' Million Trees program, applauded the mayor's passion and vision.
You want to stretch the goal. You always want to stretch the goal. You always want to go beyond what people think is possible, because it will take you further than you would otherwise go. Make no mistake about it, 400,000 trees is an enormous accomplishment.
With 8 years of service behind him, outgoing Mayor Villaraigosa says whoever is the next mayor of Los Angeles needs to also set the bar high, and that includes the planting of the remaining 600,000 trees. Councilman Bill Rosendahl is celebrating the completion of a project in his district, affordable housing for low-income and homeless seniors in Los Angeles. Cindy San Luis has more.
Delray Square stands at the corner of Culver and Inglewood Boulevard, a luxurious, affordable housing project that's providing a home for some of the most vulnerable in the city of Los Angeles.
The ocean and the ocean breeze is not just for the rich. It's for all of us. And this is one of those opportunities to show that we all deserve this.
Delray Square consists of 124 apartments for low-income seniors and veterans. There are 31 formerly homeless seniors that currently live at Delray Square. Resident George Bennett is a veteran of both the Army and Navy.
It's just like hitting a lottery, and I really am appreciative and thankful to be here. This is really good.
Monthly rent payments are approximately 30% of their income, making it affordable for those who need it most.
There are many entities that helped us bring this together to have the affordable rents.
The building also has a fitness center, computer lab, and community room, which is being used by the Delray Neighborhood Council for its regular meetings. The building was named after the 11th District Council member for his passion and commitment to the homeless.
Councilmember Rosendahl has been a vocal leader on ending homelessness around the City Council.
And because of his efforts, nearly 36 formerly homeless seniors can now call Delray Square home. I'm Cindy San Luis for LA This Week.
Delray Square was developed by Thomas Safran and Associates with the Housing Authority of the City of Los Angeles. And over in Koreatown, the Korean American community is celebrating a big first, a new museum in the city that will highlight the community's heritage and culture. Yana Kay has more.
Official sign on the dotted line, making it official. The city parking lot located at Vermont and 6th Street in the heart of Koreatown will be home to the Korean American National Museum.
We're excited and they're excited, and I can't wait to come back for the ribbon cutting ceremony.
Until then, these drummers, community members, and students celebrate in advance this milestone in the Korean American community. It took nearly 7 years to secure this location for the museum, which officials say will highlight the Korean culture.
The dominance of the Wilshire Center with a partnership with the other business here. Very special to have a museum to learn about history.
The parking lot located at Vermont and 6th Street is owned by the City of Los Angeles, which agreed to lease the land to the museum for $1 a year for the next 50 years. And Councilmember Tom LaBonge was gracious enough to cover the payment for the first year. Officials say the museum will be one of the Korean American community's most important cultural assets.
The Korean American Museum will certainly be part of the cultural fabric of the city of Los Angeles.
The Korean American National Museum will be 40,000 square feet on 2 floors. The museum will house a variety of galleries, shops, offices, an auditorium, and a rooftop garden. A facility that officials hope will be the historical and cultural center of the Korean American community for the next half a century. I'm Yana Kay for LA This Week.
The project is expected to be completed in 3 years. Who will receive the $1 million reward in the Christopher Dorner case has been determined. Broadway welcomes 2 more retailers in 2 historic buildings, and the mayor looks back at his transportation legacy. These stories and more in City Beat. The couple tied up in their Big Bear condo by former LAPD officer and suspected killer Christopher Dorner will receive 80% of the $1 million reward that was put up in the case. The remaining 20% will be split among 2 other individuals. A panel made up of 3 retired judges concluded that the couple, Jim and Karen Reynolds, held captive by Dorner, provided the most crucial tip that ultimately led police to Dorner. Dorner, who was accused of killing 4 people, was traced to a different cabin that same day in February, where a gun battle ensued between him and law enforcement officials. Dorner was later found to have died of a self-inflicted gunshot wound. 12 people had initially filed claims for the $1 million reward. 2 major retailers, Urban Outfitters and Acne, have announced they are opening up stores in downtown in the historic Broadway corridor. The long-dormant 2-story Rialto Theater, which first opened in 1917, will house Urban Outfitters, which carries women's and men's fashion, as well as housewares and gifts. Meanwhile, the Stockholm-based fashion brand Acne plans to open up a flagship store and cafe in the 1930 Eastern Columbia building on the corner of 9th Street and Broadway. The structure is one of Los Angeles' finest examples of the Art Deco era's zigzag modern style. Attracting popular retailers and restaurants to historic Broadway has been part of Councilmember Jose Huizar's 10-year Bringing Back Broadway initiative. Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa recently spoke at the Transit-Oriented Development Conference held at the Music Center downtown. He talked about the future of the city's transportation development and how that will change the look of neighborhoods.
We're all built out, everybody. We're going to have to figure out how we grow more vertical, smarter, greener, more civic-minded, and in a way that celebrates the investments that we're making around rapid transit.
As for some of the projects accomplished in his 8 years in office, the mayor says the city and Metro have built and extended the Orange Line in the valley, extended the Gold Line eastward past Union Station, opened the Exposition Line near USC, and broke ground on that line's westward extension. The Department of Recreation and Parks, along with Councilmember Tom LaBonge, recently debuted new park equipment at LA High Memorial Park on West Olympic. The park's play area was completely replaced and walkways were redone. The 2.51-acre facility provides open space and a children's play area for the use of the surrounding community. The equipment was purchased and installed with the use of $300,000 in Quimby fees, which are paid for by developers. And LA High Memorial Park is not the only park to receive new playground equipment. Rasha Goel takes us to another aging park that's getting a well-deserved makeover.
Everybody ready? 1, 2, 3.
Toberman Recreation Center, a Los Angeles recreation center and parks facility, is next up to receive new outdoor equipment to replace existing equipment that's aging and outdated.
It's more about how to live your life and how to have a productive life that is healthy, and these kids don't have access, and this will make a big difference for them.
First 5 LA, an organization which believes the first 5 years are crucial in child development, and the Los Angeles Neighborhood Initiative, a nonprofit organization focused on neighborhood revitalization, are working with the city to promote more physical activity for LA's families.
Any opportunity we have to put in equipment that encourages recreation is just key to really improving health.
The new design incorporates 2 areas for children that are age-specific, with an area in the middle for adults. In Los Angeles, I'm Rasha Goel for LA This Week.
Officials say childhood obesity is one of the most significant health threats facing LA County. And this week, it's all about the museums. From Hammer to LACMA to Skirball, there's no shortage of things to do. Grab some friends and pedal on over to the Hammer Museum on Friday, May 17th at 7 p.m. for an evening celebrating all things bicycle. Free festivities include bicycle portraits, a screening of the 1983 Australian action movie BMX Bandits, starring a young, not yet famous Nicole Kidman, and bicycle-centric crafts. The event is free and open to the public. The Hammer's north entrance on Lynbrook Drive will be wide open to bicyclists who want to ride in, and park. Details of this fun event can be found at hammer.ucla.edu. And enjoy an Indian dance performance at the Los Angeles County Museum of Art on Saturday, May 18th at 7 p.m. With powerful imagery and captivating movement, the Shakti Dance Company transports the audience into the world of ancient Indian temple tradition. This classical production, created by master choreographer V.G. Prakash and accompanied by live music, brings to the American stage for the first time the story of the Devadasi dancers to the gods. LACMA is located at 5905 Wilshire Boulevard. For ticket prices and information, go to lacma.org. Enter the fantastic world of artist, illustrator, animator, and toy designer Gary Baseman in this first major museum exhibition of his life and work. Gary Baseman, the door is always open at the Skirball Cultural Center. As a kid, Gary was inspired by characters from television, books, and games, helping him to come up with characters like Toby, Dumb Luck, and Shoo Shoo. The exhibit explores the influences of Baseman's Jewish family heritage and American popular culture on his exuberant art. You can catch the exhibit from now through August 18th. The Skirball Cultural Center is located at 2701 North Sepulveda Boulevard. More info can be found by going to skirball.org. And that's a look at some upcoming things to do. When you see blight in your neighborhood, you can certainly report it to the city's 311 number. But recently, volunteers in the LAPD teamed up to do the dirty work themselves. Rasha Goel takes us to 2 cleanup events in the valley.
Through a program called Strike Force, volunteers are working with officials to make a difference in their community. The goal?
To clean up some of the things that plague the community in a negative way, such as potholes in the street, graffiti, shopping carts that are abandoned and kind of left in alleyways and in front of homes, and large bulky items.
Volunteers from various organizations came to help out at the Whitsett Cleanup in North Hollywood and the Valley Glen Cleanup near the Valley College parking lot.
It feels really good because that means like I'm helping out other people and it makes other people happy, so that makes me happy.
Everybody should go out and do this. I think, it just took a few hours today.
Councilmember Paul Krikorian was also at both locations to lend a helping hand.
The idea is for the members of the community themselves to take charge of their own neighborhoods by going out and identifying the contributors to blight.
And these residents are doing exactly that. Whether calling in a pickup for a bulky item or weeding an area for new plants, their mission? To make a change. In Los Angeles, I'm Rasha Goel for LA This Week.
That's going to do it for this edition. Thanks for joining us. I'm Ellen Chang. A reminder that you could catch us online at lacityview.org. You can also follow and like us on Facebook. We'll see you back here next week for more of LA This Week.
Clean water means playing in green parks. There's more to Garvanza Park than meets the eye. Beneath my feet are big cisterns that collect water from the storm drain when it rains. These clean and capture the stormwater and use them for two things: water this park and recharge the groundwater. That way, we conserve potable water and keep our water sources alive. Oh, and we get a nice green park to enjoy too.
선거일이 다가오고 있습니다. 어디에서 투표를 하는지 미리 알아두는 것이 좋습니다.
Turn right, turn right, turn right.
투표 장소는 기아의 공식 연본 투표지의 뒷표지에서 찾아볼 수 있으며 또는 선거관리부 홈페이지를 방문하거나 888-873-1000번에 전화하셔서 알아볼 수 있습니다. 미리 알아두지 않으면 헤매실지도 모릅니다. 투표 장소를 확인하십시오.
Hi, this is Carretero Family.
We are from East Los Angeles, Boyle Heights. You're watching Channel 35, our city, our channel.
Okay, good morning. It is Wednesday, May 15th. Welcome to the Los Angeles City Council. This council meets every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 a.m. Mr. Clerk, we have a quorum. Please call the roll.
Alarcon, Buscaino, Englander, Garcetti, Weezer, Carrasco, Corrigan, LaBonge, Parks, Perry, Reyes, Rosendahl, Zion, West, and 10 members present, and a quorum, Mr. President.
First order of business.
Approval of the minutes.
Mr. Weezer moves, Correct seconds. Next.
Commendatory resolutions for approval.
Krikorian moves, Englander seconds. Next.
Mr. President, before running through the agenda, there's a request from member to continue item 11 to June 5. Again, that's item 11 to June 5.
Okay, without objection.
Very good, sir. Items 1 through 8 are items noticed for a public hearing.
Okay, cards.
We have cards on items 1, 4, and 8.
Okay, we'll hold those items. Specials, members. Specials 1 through 8. Seeing none, let's prepare to vote on those items. Let's open the roll. Close the roll. Tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Next section.
Mr. President, items 9 through 12 are items for which public hearings have been held. We are waiting for reports from the Housing, Community, and Economic Development Committee for items 9 and 10, so those should be held on the desk.
Okay, so let's hold those and let's go ahead and vote on item 12. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Next section.
Mr. President, that brings us to items 13 through 21. They're items for which public hearings have not been held. 10 votes are required for consideration.
Okay, without objection, those items are now before us. Cards?
Yes, sir. We have cards on items 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 19, and 21.
Okay, so I think there's one item there we can vote on?
18 and 20, sir.
Okay, well, let's vote on those two items. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, what's next?
Mr. President, item 22 is an item scheduled for closed session. Would you like to hold it on the desk?
It's my understanding that that was going to be continued for 2 weeks. And I just got the thumbs up from Mr. Krikorian. So the little birdie that whispered in my ear was accurate. Okay, that brings us where?
And Mr. President, for clarification, 2 weeks brings us to May 29.
Okay.
Oh, no, she's
That brings us to presentations or items called special.
Are you ready, Ms. Perry?
To call item 12 special.
Okay, let's vote on reconsideration for item 12. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, so we'll hold that for Miss Perry's request. Okay, and we'll just wait a bit where it relates to the presentation. So let's go through the agenda again.
Mr. President, item 1, called special for cards.
Okay. Okay, John Walsh. I see you. Come on down.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. What a wonderful day this is as Garcetti's campaign goes into the toilet. Number
on the
1,
item.
Continued consideration of hearing protests against the improvement of the lighting district. As you know, I'm not like these other old white guys who just get up and say, "You're a bunch of crooks." I think you do an excellent job on lighting. It was the bane of my existence for 10 years when you had carbon lights. They were out constantly. Then you did the right thing, an earlier city council, put in the new types of lighting, and Hollywood is lit. Of course, it makes it easier for the rapists to rape, but still, it's also good for us. Come to my website, stay for the 2 minutes. You'll hear something you never heard before, HollywoodHighlands.org.
Okay, thank you. Okay, let's prepare to vote on that item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Mr. President, that brings us to item 4, called special for cards.
You know what I think I want to do is I'm going to take up some general public comment. So if I could get Mr. Sachs, we're going to do a general public comment. So I'm calling you first. Richard Robinson and John Walsh. So come right up, Mr. Sachs.
Well, thank you. Good morning, Arnold Sachs. It's not my bailiwick, but I do have somewhat of a horse in this race because so much occurs in City Hall that affects other communities, even Lenox, that I'd like to just opinion on who should be elected for this races. I went to the barbershop in South Central LA that was they wrote an article about, Lopez wrote an article about where Wendy Gruller appeared. I'm telling you, even the air in the barbershop is generated by the union. It's fascinating. to have that so much control. And then there's this mailer that just went out about the raising the minimum wage to $15. You know, we saw some articles about how the candidates returned money to people who were somewhat sketchy. But to have the Maria Elena Durazo and her crew put out an article in flyers that mentioned $15 kind of leaves you sketchy. It kind of leaves you wondering about just what else do they talk about that's just so much hot air. My suggestion, if you've been paying attention, everybody knew about the pay raises. Everybody knew they negotiated to failure. So that's no excuse to say, oh, I would have changed my vote. Councilman Rosendahl said he's been here for 8 years. So every councilman except Koretz and Krikorian, Parks, Perry have been here, Garcetti, the Smith boys, Knucklehead and Chucklehead have all been here. Vote for Garcetti. Don't vote for Zine. Thank you.
Okay, Richard, followed by John Walsh.
Mr. President, members, Richard Robinson. Sir, creation. What Einstein said is this, quote, that started the Big Bang, I call a creator. Ironically, what seemingly E equals MC squared, the Big Bang, occurs instantly, doesn't occur instantly, at more than 14 billion miles per second. Kablam! Takes 6 days. But I have to apologize because the last time I spoke before you, sir, I said this planet is not my home. I was being facetious. However, anyone who is a Christian knows that we are in the world, but not of the world. Having gotten that out of the way, let me say this. President Obama's being attacked. He's the president. He's on the hill. People on the hill, they get attacked. But IRS, anyone who doesn't pay his taxes is not a good American. Period. Oliver Wendell Holmes said, taxes are the price we pay for civilized society. So what am I saying? Madoff's in jail. Skilling, we don't have to talk about it. And Ron, we know what happened. You pay your taxes, you're in good with the government. Thank you.
Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. 1 month ago, Garcetti had a 9-point lead, 49-40. 11% left, undecided. He had won the election. The LA Times said desperation. I got up. Garcetti said the other day, 609 days he's been running. Yes, anybody but Garcetti, our campaign, 609 days at the time. In it for himself. When Dave Bryan, he bristled. I'm not in it for myself. I'm in it for you. Well, where is he today? Where is he today? With the business. Herbie lets him get away. He gets paid $125,000 and he's in it for himself campaigning, and he's been done that for the last 3 months. For shame, Herb, for shame. Rapinski, what does he say in the debate? He says, well, Gruhl, she took money from a convicted felon. Did she hug a convicted felon on TV, on the cameras? No, and she gave back the money. Give back the money. Garcetti says, I can't give back the money. You'll take back the money anytime you give it to him. Lies, lies, and lies. But let me tell you, the Garcetti curse is coming again. Do you remember when everybody said that Gil Garcetti had a slam dunk and O.J. Simpson would be convicted of murder and the entire thing slipped through his fingers and his career ended. You are seeing history repeat itself. Steve Lopez, read him. Steve Lopez threw away his Lewinsky knee pads and stood up. The LA Times is not backing him the way they used to. I'm telling you now, anybody but Garcetti for mayor. Come to my website, HollywoodHighlands.org.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Okay, now we'll go to item 4. I have a card, John Kalesevich. Please come forward.
Good morning, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
I was for the proposal. If there's no opposings, I give up my time.
Okay. Okay, let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, now we're going to quickly do item 15. Mr. Weezar.
Mr. President, I believe that you have some cards there that are all in support. I think they were willing to withdraw their cards since there is no opposition to this. I ask for an aye vote. Thank you.
Okay. Those individuals were, for the record, Mark Spector, Hal Bastian, and Veronica Perez. Okay, let's prepare to vote on item 15. Let's open the roll, Madam Clerk. Close the roll, tabulate the vote.
10 ayes.
Okay, Ms. Perry, I've been informed that your guests are here. Ms. Perry has the floor.
How's that? Does that work for you? You want to stand here? There you go. She's kicking. If you want to put her up, take her up here. We can put her up here if you want. Whatever works for you. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. I am here with Marco Barantes, Principal Designer and Founder, and Michelle Matthews, Creative Director of La Loma Development Company. This is a great, innovative company that specializes in turning everyday urban environments into sustainable and ecologically sound landscapes. Their experience creating living landscapes has made them a leader in the burgeoning field of sustainable development. Using such techniques as grouping plants with similar water requirements, requiring that they use water efficiently as possible, is just one of the ways they are improving the environment. A prime example, and you can see it on the screen right now, of La Loma's work can be found at Main Street Elementary School in South Los Angeles, as well as a number of growing places throughout the city. Through a year-long community collaboration, La Loma used their expertise to transform 4,000 square feet of asphalt paving into a sustainable urban forest. The La Loma staff were happy to work with over 450 volunteers from the community and tree people to convert a barren dirt courtyard into a rain garden with sycamores, reclaimed wooden trunks, rainwater catchment, berms, swales, and native drought-tolerant plants that attract birds and butterflies. Parents, teachers, and community partners dedicated countless hours to fulfill the vision, creating a serene space where children and adults could appreciate and learn from nature. So it's with great pleasure, and I've actually been there and taken some of the same pictures myself, so I can tell you firsthand how beautiful it is. I want to thank them and commend them, and thank La Loma and the Main Street Elementary School for their great work in creating this sustainable, eco-friendly living space within our community and within our school community, and improving the quality of life for everyone. And I look forward to your continued success working here in our city, designing thoughtful, healthy, interconnected green spaces in our urban environment. So would you like, one of you, like to say a few words?
Thank you.
Oh, thank you very much to City of LA for being very supportive of La Loma Development Company, both in the school district and elsewhere, parks, and we look forward to helping green LA as one of the leaders in the nation in sustainable landscaping. Thank you very much.
Who's that little good-looking bundle of joy?
That's Mateo, my son.
Okay, all righty then. Anyway, everyone, let's give them a round of applause. Thank you, Ms. Perry, for bringing them in, and thank you for all of the work that you do. Okay, I'll call you in 1 second. I want to take a moment and acknowledge that today Bill Rosendahl is 39 and holding. Okay, he and I are the exact same age. So happy 39th birthday, Mr. Rosendahl.
Thank you. Boy, it means a lot to make it to this.
And I promise you, we will not allow Mr. Buscaino to sing happy birthday to you.
Oh, he's got a great voice. I want John Walsh to say a few words.
Okay. Well, I'll be calling him next. Okay, for another announcement, Joey B.
That was it. You're good, Mr. President. That's why you're up there. Happy birthday, Bill. We love you. Have a great day. And I won't sing, I promise.
Chickens, huh?
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Mr. Labange.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And Billy, every day's a blessing, and it's such a blessing that you've been such a fighter and fighting back, and you look very good in that international tie. Happy birthday. I love you. Thank you.
We all love you, Billy. Okay, now we're going to move to item 8. And now we'll see what Mr. Walsh says, Bill. John Walsh, item number 8. And I will give you flexibility if you want to reference Mr. Rosendahl.
John Walsh, blogging at HollywoodHighlands.org. Absolutely no negative comments against any politician who endorses Wendy Gruhl. Happy birthday, Bill.
John, don't go away. I'm going to call item 19 next. So let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay, Mr. Walsh, item 19. Mr. Labange.
Mr. President, just a moment before you call the public speaker, I introduce the summer intern, Carly O'Connell, the Dion's beautiful daughter here. Welcome her to City Hall. Right there, there's the city attorney who we know and love, and this is the daughter he knows and loves so well. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh. You can also go straight to jwalsh.wordpress.com or just Google J. Walsh Confidential. 19, again, I would like to thank the next controller of the city of Los Angeles, Dennis Zine. In answer to our request about a complete audit of reward offers, how many are still up, how much money has been paid, how many have been rejected. You never see me get up if the family is here. I will never get up and intrude if the family is here. But if this is an extension, and Carlos Martinez deserves I'm sure he deserves the extension, and we are asking for a complete audit, and Zine has put in a motion, and that audit is now being processed. John Walsh, HollywoodHighlands.org.
Okay, let's prepare to vote on that item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay, Mr. Clerk, it's my understanding that I think reports are in on items 9 and 10. Am I correct?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, let's take those items up. There are no cards. Can I take them up together, or?
Yes, sir, you may.
So what we're going to do, we're going to take up items 9 and 10 together. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay. Item 13, Mr. Walsh and Arnold Sachs. Okay, Mr. Walsh passes, so that leaves Arnold Sachs. Item 13.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. Item 13. Again, this is about the use of city employees, city resources. So I'm hoping that the next controller, Ron Galperin, looks into this in the efficient manner that he has shown when he's come before the council to give ideas on how the city could reduce its budget deficit. We need people to come in who will look at funds that are available, that are due the city, not people to rubber stamp every action that comes into the city council and the council chambers. That's why Ron Galperin needs to become the controller. We need people to have an ability to redirect the city resources more to get the optimum amount of money and funds to keep the city from going under the water.
Okay, let's prepare to vote on that item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Item 16, Arnold, you're back, and Mr. Walsh as well. Item 16, Arnold Sachs is up now. Go ahead, Mr. Sachs.
Yes, thank you. Good morning again, Arnold Sachs. Anybody familiar with the book, The Firm, about a law firm in Nashville that was actually doing legal work for organized crime? This seems awfully similar. You're putting city attorneys on furlough, you're hiring, you're funding, and by the way, when the budget hearings were held and somebody from the union got up and discussed Budgeting 101, they mentioned 7 different categories of emergency funds that need to be filled. So the funding for this item comes from which one of those categories? Keep in mind that the fire department was short $13 million to redeploy its personnel, but that's no problem. So you furlough city attorneys, and by the way, it mentions salaries, but it doesn't mention an hourly rate. Do you negotiate an hourly rate when you do these? And by the way, was a request for proposal issued to all the legal firms in the city of Los Angeles? Or is this just a select few that just keep having their funding renewed just to keep them in the loop? Again, this is the reason we need an outside voice in the controller's office. Vote for Ron Galperin. He's an outside voice who's got his head on his shoulders, unlike most of the city councilmen who have their heads someplace else.
Okay, Mr. Walsh.
John Walsh, HollywoodHighlands.org, jwalshconfidential.wordpress.com. For identification purposes only, anybody but Garcetti for mayor. These are the outside contracts that Trutanich controls. Now, all city attorneys control these contracts, and they always go to friends. They always do. And whoever wins, it will go to a friend, okay? That's not the point. The point is, although as a Democrat I want to vote for fewer, I'm having a hard time. He's just a little too crooked. Maybe we should keep what we have rather than go to somebody else. So what I'm saying is, for all those undecideds, let's take a deep breath, accept Mr. Trutanich, a fellow teacher, a wonderful family man, and let's, I'm saying this personally, not for the website, vote for Trutanich, HollywoodHighlands.org.
Okay, let's prepare to vote on this. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Forthwith. Item 17, I need Mr. Walsh back up here. And Mr. Sachs, please. Item 17.
Why would it pass?
Okay, Mr. Walsh passes. That leaves you, Mr. Sachs.
Yes, thank you. And, sir, I'd like just 1 minute on this item. Thank you. This is one of those sources of funds. Again, when we had the budget hearings and a wonderful discussion that was, it was a vomit-a-thon. You should actually look at creating some plastic bags so that when people get sick of listening to us BS, they got some place that they can throw up into. That being said, AB 1290 funds. We have Sunshine Canyon amenity funds. We have Lopez Canyon amenity funds. We have bus bench revenue funds. You have billboard revenue funds. All sources of funding that don't have to be collected. All sources of funding that come in and are given priority to council districts and somehow end up in council offices. Notice the difference. Council districts, council officers. That's why you need Ron Galpin for controller.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sachs. Madam Clerk, let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay, Mr. Sachs, would you please come back for item 21?
Just a point of information. There's no special fund for Lennox.
Return to your seat, Mr. Labonza. Thank you. Okay, Mr.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Sachs, I'm informed you have 1 minute.
I know. That's why I asked for 1 minute. Yes,
okay.
Thank you. And I appreciate Councilman LeBon standing up and saying there's no special fund for Lennox. But believe me, Councilman LeBon, the airplanes that fly over and land at LAX,
okay, let's
they should be funding something for Lennox for all the abuse that people have to live through. That being said, the Quimby fees and the use here of these funds, $332,000. Park funds. We need to have a situation where the park funds are obligated so the public is aware that when these buildings or these developments are created, the park is not an afterthought. You had it happen here at Grand Avenue, which is basically a $50 million down payment. Let the public be aware that a park will be developed and they'll have use of it before the construction of the projects.
Thank you, Mr. Sachs. Okay, now we want to go to item 12. Ms. Perry. Oh, I think we should vote on it. Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay, now, Ms. Perry on item 12.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Before I begin, I'd like to say a special hello to the John Muir Middle School 7th grade class. Stand up and wave your hands. I'll come back and say hello after I'm done with my item. This is a resolution I introduced because I was concerned about the impact of the Los Angeles Superior Court's proposal to create hubs, which would transfer more than 7,000 unlawful detainer eviction cases from 3 San Fernando Valley courthouses to Santa Monica and Pasadena. The consolidation and closing of courts will not only affect thousands of residents in the valley, but will also affect the residents of South Los Angeles and, in fact, affect communities across our city. This will be an insurmountable barrier to the courts for thousands of poor, low-income, disabled, elderly, and limited English-speaking city residents. Many residents may be hard-pressed to fight eviction notices with this change, as they may have to travel for more than 5 hours round trip on public transportation requiring multiple transfers and bus trips. So what we need to do is to have a public forum to address these impediments and develop a sensible approach to ensuring that our vulnerable communities are able to access the judicial system. The Neighborhood Legal Services of Los Angeles is working hard to mitigate the effects of the court's plan to hub these services, and I look forward to working with them as this will affect many residents, especially those without sufficient access to transportation. And I believe, Mr. President, that Maria Palomares from Neighborhood Legal Services is here today to speak on this item.
Okay, now we already satisfied the public hearing request, but at your request, we will call up Dominic is here, and Maria Palomares, maybe, and Arnold Sachs. Okay, I'm sorry, Mr. Sachs out of time. Please come forward, don't.
Good morning, City Council members. I am Maria Palomares, and I'm with Neighborhood Legal Services of Los Angeles County. As City Councilwoman Perry indicated, the courts will be closing, in fact have already closed, in the San Fernando Valley. They've reduced from 26 to 5 unlawful detainer courtrooms. What that means is, for example, in the San Fernando Valley, which by population, if it were its own city, would be the 4th largest city in the country, will have 0 unlawful detainer courtrooms, meaning that poor people, individuals with disabilities, and elderly will be traveling to Santa Monica and Pasadena, taking approximately 4 buses, traveling over 2 hours, which, as has been indicated, is an insurmountable barrier for these individuals. In fact, the LA Superior Court themselves has said that the way they're going to save money is to get these families to default, which will lead to homelessness. The LA Superior Court failed to reach out to our organization or any organization which works with these individuals. They didn't seek to ameliorate the harm. There's no accommodations to individuals with disabilities. There's no way to start later for poor individuals or individuals who have mental disabilities to be able to get there. In fact, what we've seen since this program was instituted 2 weeks ago is that individuals are being defaulted, being unable to get to Santa Monica or Pasadena. In fact, I had a client last week who was scheduled to have an unlawful detainer in Santa Monica and who didn't get her case transferred despite being having severe anxiety disorder, depression, and being unable to get out of a wheelchair. Still, the court didn't let her know what was going on, meaning for these families, the result will be homelessness. So I urge you to reach out to the City Council to allow for public comment, to create avenues for these families to be able to protect a critical need.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's prepare to vote on this item. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay, I want to, for an announcement, I'm going to Mr. Tom LaBonge.
Here at Mr. Rosenthal's. Mr. Alarcon, thank you. Mr. President, I stand here at Mr. Rosenthal's spot because yesterday morning, in the early morning hours, they had the blessing of the bicycles, a 10th anniversary of the blessing of the bicycles at the Good Samaritan Hospital. Good Samaritan Hospital located right there on 6th Street. Brother Bill was the champion, the Golden Spoke Award. To receive the Golden Spoke at this moment, I'm going to ask Andy Lika, the CEO of the hospital, to talk about what a saint Bill Rosendahl has been in cycling.
Listen, I'm here for 2 reasons. Number one, to wish Councilman Rosendahl happy 50th birthday. So that's first thing on the docket. But secondly, is for the Golden Spoke Award. Every year, this is the 10th year of the Blessing of the Bicycles. It's one of those fun things in Los Angeles. The fun thing about it is Councilman Rosendahl has promoted safe bicycling for children, for residents throughout this city. He's been a champion. Here's a past recipient of it as well, Tom LaBonge. Mayor Villaraigosa won it, and a few others throughout time. But this year is Bill's year because of his just absolute dedication, the anti-harassment legislation that he put through, also supporting hundreds of miles of bike trails throughout Los Angeles for a safe atmosphere for all cyclists, promoting fitness, promoting health, as well as a clean environment. So this is to you, Councilman Rosenthal.
Okay, let's give him a round of applause.
Hey, Billy.
And just to set the record straight, Bill is 39.
39.
Okay.
39.
Not 50. 39 and holding. Okay.
Congratulations.
Mr. Krikorian.
Wait, before Mr. Krikorian, Mr. Rosendahl.
Oh, Mr. Rosendahl.
Yeah, just one thing first. You know, I made it to 68 today, and I'm very grateful I made it. There was a moment when it looked very clear that I wasn't going to make it. It's as simple as that. And to every cancer survivor, and never give up hope. And the positive energy that I've gotten, the love and the prayers and the food that I've gotten has nurtured me spiritually and physically. And I've literally come back from the edge. Many of you know that Prop D, which is on the ballot, has something that has had a medicinal, healthy impact on me. And so I'm standing here very grateful and very humble that I made it to this particular moment. And as for the cycling, you know, I got on a bike after 30 years of having not ridden one, and I was having a lot of fun, and all my skills came back. And I'm looking forward to getting back on the bike again to do it. But I'm not there yet. But that's another hopeful moment for me, and thank you for honoring me.
Thank you.
I appreciate it, and especially, Tommy, for all your leadership all over. The doctors and the nurses and everybody else and the staff and all the people who have been involved. I mean, I see a bunch of kids in the back.
Yeah.
Who are they?
They're from John Muir, right? John Muir.
Come on up.
That's Jan's district. Jan's going to handle it.
Stand
up. Turn it back to our president, Mr. Herb Winston.
Come on.
Okay.
Right. Well, okay.
Good job. Good
job. God bless you. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, now, Mr. Krikorian, I'm going to ask at your request that we reconsider item 22. So we're going to vote on reconsideration. Let's open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay, we had one card. We had two cards, but Mr. Sachs is out of time. And Mr. Walsh, I believe you have 1 minute. Mr. Walsh on item 22.
I think we have a record. Haven't been no objections from the city attorney the entire meeting for anybody. Okay, this is what is happening now is the CRA has been dissolved. All the contracts have been reviewed by Jerry Brown's finance. Some of the contracts the cities want to continue, but the state says no, cancel them. So cities are now suing Jerry Brown, saying we want to keep these CRA contracts going. There's about 40 lawsuits. This is another lawsuit. It is for the corrupt developers to continue a contract to build something that Jerry Brown and the state of California says is not necessary and is not legal. We want to see the end of CRA. First meeting I ever went to in 1971 was a CRA meeting, and I vowed to see their death, and I'm dancing on the CRA's grave 42 years later.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh, and I'm sure Dion is distracted by his daughter. Okay, Mr. Krikorian.
Thank you, Mr. President. Item 22 is an instruction from a recommendation from the Budget and Finance Committee to instruct the initiation of litigation. It can be resolved in open session, I think, unless members would like to discuss it further in closed session, but the recommendation of the Budget and Finance Committee is an aye vote.
Okay, Alan, is it you or Dion? Somebody has to make an announcement where...
Mr. President, I believe Mr. Krikorian just made a motion.
Okay, so let's open the roll.
And for the record, would anybody care to second that?
I will.
Very good, sir.
So open the roll, close the roll, tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Mr. Weezar, item 14. You want to take cards first? Mr. Weezar. Item 14, Eric, you got to get to him faster.
Yes, cards,
anyway, you want to take
please.
cards?
Yes.
Okay, Dominic, I called you out of order. So come forward. And Farah Normad or something, Juliet Yeager, which I butchered some names here. So if the Yeager family could come up behind you. So Dominic, you could start it out.
Good morning, Mr. President, and happy birthday, Councilman Rosenthal. I'm here on behalf of Toyota Central, the applicant for the vacation. We have worked diligently since 2006 to meet all of the requirements and conditions that are set by the city in order to move forward with a vacation. We have worked very, very hard with Caltrans. We have met all of the conditions imposed by the City Department of Engineering, and we ask for your support on this application this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Dominic. Now, again, there were other cards on this item. Is anybody here on item 14? Please come forward. Anybody else here on item 14? Then come get behind her. Because I have a total of 4 cards, so there should be 3 people in line. Okay, Miss, go right ahead, identify yourself.
Honorable Council members, good morning. My name is Farah Normand, and I represent Fred Yadigar, the owner of 1721 South Flower Street, RPM, Sibel, and other businesses working out of that property close to 2 decades now. Today, I plead to the entire Council a matter which has not been given the requisite attention it so desperately needs. Last week at the Public Works Committee hearing, testimony was given by property owners and a traffic consultant substantiating the negative impact of the proposed vacation of Lebanon Street. The application is tantamount to a private taking by one property owner that wishes to use a public right-of-way to everyone else's exclusion. It was represented to the Council that prior to this, their 3rd submission of this motion, applicant had dedicated several years to this project and had reached out to everyone concerned. I must reiterate that my client was never approached nor consulted regarding his concerns, and 2 minutes at a Council hearing is not enough time to address such an impactful project. As for the legal ramifications, Attorney Fred Gaines has previously cited case law and statutes to support why approval of street vacation would be inconsistent with public policy and state law. I urge you to reread his letters, the letter we submitted, and also consider these key points prior to voting. My client and his tenants rely on Lebanon Street for ingress and egress on a daily basis for purposes of loading, unloading, sanitation, emergency, and as a safe alternate route in light of congested Figueroa and the one-way streets surrounding us. With Council members' permission, I'm going to take Ms. Yadigar's 2 minutes and continue to finish.
No, we don't do that. So we don't.
As her attorney, I can't.
We don't exchange time. No, we don't.
She can't give it up. May I finish my thought?
Your time is up, and now she needs to come forward and make her statement.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that's just a policy we have here. Go right ahead.
My client and his tenants rely on Lebanon Street for ingress and egress on a daily basis for purpose of loading, unloading, sanitation, emergency, and a safe alternate route in light of congested Figueroa and the one-way streets surrounding us. The proposed replacement Caltrans alley will not alleviate problems caused by this vacation. Applicant has not shown any reason why this change is for public benefit. The city will be exposed to more liability. My client has been opposed to this motion since 2006, but applicant has never deemed it necessary to discuss the reasons why. So we look to the city to avoid the need for judicial intervention. and as such, I respectfully ask you to deny applicant's motion or in the alternative vote to give us time to meet with the applicant, discuss our concern, and come up with a solution that works for everyone. And myself, I'm working in that location, 1721 South Flower. I come to this location every day, and the Lebanon Street is one of the safest way and the fastest way for me to get to this location. And we are loading and unloading a lot of using this road for loading and unloading, and closing this road will be very uncomfortable and very unsafe for us. Thank you.
You speak well for yourself. Okay, sir, come forward.
Good morning, Mr. President and all council. Thank you for your service for the city of Los Angeles. I am the owner of 1721 South Flower. My name is Fred Yadegar, and I am in the opposition about this matter for the public safety and plus devaluation of my property. The way Mr. Dominic represented them is totally misinformed the community and council, because as a DOT, I have in the letter, they're supposed to be contact with us. Never they contact. And the last Friday, my attorney called his office to come to compromise it. They didn't answer it yet. 2 times this project go to the city, and 2 times is rejected by city engineering. Right now, they hired Mr. Dominic, and he is lobbyist attorney, and I don't know how come they're coming with the full council this thing. Only I have one very request of your city engineer. They're supposed to be contact with us. And never 2010-11 contact. And this is not complete. I request from President and all of the council members send back to see all of the facts, and then whatever you guys voted, no problem. They misinformed all the city council because they're hiring lobbyist attorney, and this is not the way of the democracy for this city, and you don't want to teach this student this way make decision. I really appreciate for your time.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Huizar.
Thank you. Is there someone here from Public Works? If you could come up to the table, please. And my first question is, how long has this process been taking place?
Good morning, Edmund Yu from Public Works Engineering. This application has been going on for at least since 2007. The current application has started in the last 3 years or so based on a new application.
So the new application. And there was notification sent to all the neighboring affected property owners.
The Bureau of Engineering notified all surrounding properties.
And there was ample time for everyone to give their input. And have you been in communication with some of the speakers here who are against this?
Yes, I have spoke to some of the neighbors.
Okay, including the ones who are here today?
The last person, yes.
Okay. And there will continue to be access to all affected properties in the area?
That's correct. The applicant has worked with Caltrans to provide a replacement alley, and that concept has been approved by DOT, Planning Department, Fire Department, as well as Bureau of Engineering.
So instead of a long alleyway now, there's going to be an L-shaped alley. It's not completely being vacated, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and this was an accommodation to make sure that there was access to all affected properties?
That's correct.
Okay, do you see anything else wrong with this as we move forward, if we should move forward?
No, as long as the conditions imposed are being complied with, I don't see any major problem with that.
Okay. Thank you. Colleagues, this has been in the works for some time, and we wanted to ensure that there's access to all properties. We've reviewed this. We believe there is. There's been ample time for public input and comment. I ask for your aye vote on this. Thank you.
Okay, with that said, let's open the roll, close the roll, now tabulate the vote.
11 ayes.
Okay, where does that bring us, Mr. Clerk?
Mr. President, that brings us back to general public comment.
Okay, Henry Marine. Forthwith on 19.
9 and 10, sir.
9 and 10. Mr. Marine. I didn't hear you, Mr. Krikorian. Forthwith on the 22, is it? Yes, 22. Okay, Mr. Marine.
This is public comment.
General public comment.
Thank you for letting it come in here. All right. Still having this concern about eligibility for any member of this council being eligible for election on the 21st due to known violations of state and federal constitution. It was established on October 26. Members of this council were made aware that they were in violation of state and federal constitution in regards to contracting and accounting of money. In one nation under God, it ain't prudent to believe you can shelter money from somebody and not have to account for it. And heretofore, nobody's accounted for it. Now, that just leaves me speechless here to believe these educated people sitting here don't know the responsibility to account for money that they shelter from the pay of government employees. Especially when 4 of these members of this council are policemen sworn to uphold state and federal constitution and enforcement of laws. Now, how you sleep at night? I don't know how you do it. Come here. It's written down in black and white how much money you've ordered people to withhold from the pay of people and not account for it. Look like we need to get 15 mirrors out to find out where the problem is. Because you are the problem. And so we'll find out on the 21st if anybody challenges your right to run for office on the 21st or on March 5th if you were eligible. Thank you.
That is Mr. Marine. Any other cards? No other cards? We do have another school I just want to recognize right now. And with the Angelinas, could you name your school, please? Is this John Muir again? John Muir. Oh, Miss Perry, we got another class from John Muir. You want to introduce him?
Okay, I guess this is the second wave of 7th graders from John Muir Middle School. So stand up and wave. Stand up.
Thank you, Miss Perry and John Muir. Go. Good school, John Muir Middle School. All right, Mr. Clerk, anything else before us?
Mr. President, council has motions for posting and referral.
So ordered by request of the councilman of the 14th District. Next.
That clears the desk.
Okay, any announcements? Members, any announcements? No announcements. Members, any adjourning motions? No adjourning motions? So members, on this day, the 15th of May, continue your good work for the city of Los Angeles. We thank our staffs. This meeting is now adjourned.
you